My name is Melissa Kilgore. I'm 33 years old. At Thanksgiving dinner, my father raised his glass in front of 22 people and said, "To the dreamer who'll never amount to anything." Everyone clapped. Then he looked straight at me and added, "If you vanished today, Melissa, we'd probably celebrate." My mother nodded. My brother smirked. My sister stared at her plate. I didn't argue. I didn't move. I quietly finished my plate and said, "Interesting theory." They don't know what I've been secretly doing for them over the past 18 months. They didn't know about the deal that went public 3 weeks ago, but my grandfather did. He stood up, hands shaking, and said one sentence that turned my father's face white. What happened next didn't just change the dinner, it rewrote the family. Let me take you back. 14 years. Thanksgiving 2011. I was 19 years old, sitting at this same table, carving sweet potato casserole I'd spent 3 hours making. My father asked what I'd declared as my major at the University of Minnesota. "Creative writing," I said. The room went silent. My father set down his wineglass. "So, you want to be poor and miserable?" My mother looked at her plate, said nothing. My brother Nathan, already in his second year of pharmacy school, laughed. "At least I picked something practical." My father leaned back in his chair, smiled like he'd just proven a point. "Creative writing? That's not a degree, Melissa. That's a hobby you pay $50,000 to pretend is legitimate." I kept cutting the casserole. Nobody ate it. That night, my grandfather slipped me a book as I left, his old copy of The Grapes of Wrath. Inside the cover, he'd written in pencil, "Don't let them kill this." I didn't understand what he meant. Not yet. The years after graduation were a study in invisibility. I lived in a 380-square-foot studio at 1124 West 28th Street in uptown Minneapolis. Rent was $1,100 a month. I worked as a freelance editor for academic publishers. $2,800 a month. Just enough. Every family gathering, the script was the same. "Still editing other people's work?" my father would ask. "When will you write something that pays?" I'd explain I was working on a novel. He'd laugh. "How many years now? 5?" At my mother's 60th birthday in 2019, my Aunt Helen asked what I did for a living. My father cut in before I could answer. "She's between things." I wasn't between things. I was writing every morning from 4:30 to 7, in a studio apartment with a desk facing Lake of the Isles. I'd filled 23 Moleskine notebooks in 7 years, but to them, I was a question mark. A disappointment in a family that measured success in pharmacy licenses and teaching credentials and homeownership. Christmas 2023. Nathan's wife Emily asked if I had a 401k. When I said no, she laughed. Not mean, just pitying. My mother called me in March of 2024. 2 weeks after I'd received my first advance payment of $205,000. "It's not too late to go back to school, Mel," she said. "Maybe nursing, teaching, something stable." I said I'd think about it. I didn't tell her I'd just signed a $1.85 million book deal with Penguin Random House, because I knew exactly what would happen if I did. The Thanksgiving hierarchy was ironclad. My father sat at the head, my mother to his right, Nathan in position 2, the seat of honor. Claire, my younger sister, got acknowledgement for being a teacher and raising 2 kids alone. And me? Melissa's here too. That was it. No toast, no questions about my life. At Thanksgiving 2023, when I'd already signed the biggest deal of my life, my father asked, "Still doing that editing job?" I said yes. He nodded, turned back to Nathan. In October 2024, my mother sent me an email. "Nathan is bringing his new promotion news for Thanksgiving. Try to be happy for him, okay? I know it's hard when your siblings succeed." I read that email in my studio apartment. The same day I got a call from my film agent about a 24 wanting to option my book. I smiled. closed my laptop, and I went to Nathan's promotion dinner and clapped for 10 straight minutes while my father gave a speech about real success and contributing to society. I kept smiling, because by then, I'd been on the New York Times bestseller list for 12 weeks, and not one of them knew. But they had no idea what I'd been building in the 4 a.m. silence of my studio apartment. And I planned to keep it that way, at least until I was ready. January 2022. I started writing the book that would change everything. I called it The Weight of Winter. 89,000 words about generational trauma, about deferred dreams in a Midwest family that mistakes cruelty for honesty, about the cost of invisibility. I wrote it for my grandfather. He'd given me his old manuscript the year before, a short story collection from 1976 that sold 800 copies and won a regional award before my grandmother told him to get a real job. Every morning, 4:30 to 7, I wrote. By June 2023, I had a finished manuscript. I sent 47 query letters to literary agents. 46 said no. The 47th was Victoria Chen at WME. She replied 3 days later. Melissa, her email said. I stayed up until 3 a.m., reading The Weight of Winter. This is stunning. Can we talk tomorrow? We talked. She cried on the phone, said she wanted to send it to editors at the Big Five publishers. I said yes. I didn't tell my family I had an agent. August 2023. Victoria submitted my manuscript to 8 editors. Within 2 weeks, 5 of them made offers. February 14th, 2024. Valentine's Day. I was eating a Chipotle burrito bowl alone when Victoria texted me. Penguin just offered $1.85 million for 3 books. Call me now. I called. Is this real? I asked. As real as it gets, Victoria said. You're a fucking novelist, Melissa. The deal structure: $615,000 for book 1, $615 for book 2, $620 for book 3, paid in installments. I signed the contract at Caribou Coffee on Hennepin Avenue. 47 pages. I read every word. It took 6 hours. The first advance payment hit my account on February 28th, $205,000. After agent commission and taxes, I netted about $128,000, more money than I'd made in 3 years of freelancing. I cried in the Chipotle bathroom. Then I went to my parents' house for Sunday dinner, and I didn't say a word. The book published on June 11th, 2025. The cover was a winter landscape, bare tree, muted blue and gray. My editor at Viking, Samantha Brooks, sent me the first printed copy in May. I held it in my hands and couldn't breathe. Kirkus gave it a starred review in April. A devastating meditation on family, ambition, and the courage to choose yourself. Kilgore's prose cuts to the bone. On June 18th, I debuted at number 15 on the New York Times bestseller list. I saw the announcement at 5 a.m. in my studio, alone. Victoria texted me at 8:12. You're on the list, number 15. This is just the beginning. She was right. Every week, the book climbed. 15, 12, 8, 5. By October, I'd been at number 3 for 6 consecutive weeks. My family still thought I was editing academic papers for $2,800 a month. October 8th, 2025, 11 a.m. Reese Witherspoon posted on Instagram. October Book Club pick, The Weight of Winter by Melissa Kilgore, a story about family, sacrifice, and finding your voice. I sobbed. You will too. 2.4 million likes in 24 hours. Sales spiked by 600% overnight. My publisher rushed to print 50,000 additional copies. I got 6 emails from people I went to college with. OMG, is this you? I replied, yeah, haha. I didn't tell my family. 3 weeks before Thanksgiving, an old roommate called me. Melissa, I just saw Reese's post. When were you going to tell me you're a New York Times best-selling author? I don't know, I said. I guess I'm still processing it. That was a lie. I knew exactly why I hadn't told anyone. because the moment I did, it would stop being mine. September 18th, 2025. My film agent emailed, "A 24 wants the rights." 10 days later, they offered $620,000. I accepted on October 2nd. Deadline Hollywood published the announcement on October 5th. A 24 acquires The Weight of Winter, debut novel by Melissa Kilgore, lands prestige adaptation deal. The payment hit my account on October 18th. After agent fees and taxes, I netted $389,600. I celebrated by getting Chipotle. Again. Then I rewatched Lady Bird, and a 24 film. By Thanksgiving 2025, I had a New York Times bestseller at number 3, a Reese's Book Club pick, and a 24 film deal, and roughly $650,000 in liquid assets. I still lived in my $1,100 studio. I still freelanced. And in 6 weeks, I'd walk into Thanksgiving dinner, where my father would call me a worthless dreamer in front of 22 people, because I never told them. And honestly, I'm glad I didn't. Because the secret wasn't just about the book, it was about the money, and what I'd been doing with it while they called me a failure. That part, that's what would break them. March 8th, 2024. 3 weeks after I received my first advance. My mother called. She was crying. "We're going to lose the house," she said. The bank sent a foreclosure notice, $78,000 on the home equity loan, 90 days past due. My father was too proud to ask his daughter for help, so my mother called in secret. "Don't tell your father I called," she whispered. "Can I help?" I asked. She laughed, sad, exhausted. "Unless you have $15,000 lying around." I did. I had $128,000 in my checking account. "I'll figure something out," I said. 4 days later, I wired $15,000 to Fifth Third Bank with a memo that read, "From Henry Sullivan Savings Account, Family Assistance." My grandfather's name, not mine. My mother texted 3 hours later. "We got an anonymous donor. Jeffrey thinks it's from the church fund. Don't tell him I told you." I replied, "That's amazing, Mom." She never asked if it was me, because asking would mean seeing me as someone capable of having $15,000, and that didn't fit the story they'd written about me. Over the next 7 months, I paid off their entire home equity loan. $15,000 in March, $6,500 in April, $8,200 in May, $7,800 in June. I created a fake Gmail account, stmarksfund@gmail.com, sent them official-looking letters about their church blessing. They believed it without question. On October 15th, 2024, the loan was fully paid, $78,000. Gone. My parents threw a small dinner party to celebrate. 12 people. I brought a $12 bottle of wine from Target. My father stood at the head of the table and raised his glass. "I'm a proud man," he said, "but I'm not too proud to accept help from good Christians. This church saved our home. That's real charity, not handouts to lazy people." I sat in the corner, said nothing. My grandfather pulled me aside in the kitchen. "That was you, wasn't it?" he whispered. I didn't answer. He hugged me, hard. "You're better than all of them," he said. That's when I started crying. July 2024, 11 p.m. Nathan texted me. "Hey, can we talk?" He called 5 minutes later, voice shaking. "I'm embarrassed to ask Dad," he said. "But I still have $43,000 in student loans from pharmacy school, 6.8% interest. It's killing me. Can you lend me like 5,000? I didn't hesitate. "What if I just paid it off?" I said. Silence. "What?" "All of it," I said. 43,000. Consider it a gift." Nathan cried. "Melissa, I can't. I'll pay you back. I swear." "Just be kind, Nathan," I said. "That's all I ask." On July 18th, I wired $43,000 directly to Navient, his loan servicer. Nathan left me an 8-minute voicemail, sobbing, thanking me, saying I'd changed his life. 4 months later, at Thanksgiving, he would smirk while my father told me I was worthless. He never mentioned the 43,000, not once. My sister Claire was different. She always said thank you. May 2024. Her car was totaled in an accident. Insurance covered 3,000. The body shop quoted 8,500. I paid it without asking. September 2024. Her 4-year-old son needed minor surgery. Out-of-pocket cost, $12,000. I covered it. February 2025. Her furnace died in the middle of a Minnesota winter. Replacement cost, 8,500. I transferred the money the same day. Total for Claire, $29,000. She thanked me every time, but she never asked where a freelance editor making $2,800 a month got that kind of money, because asking would mean acknowledging I might be more than they thought. An acknowledgement requires seeing someone. Claire was the only one who ever said thank you, but even she never asked. October 12th, 2025, 11:08 p.m. Nathan sent a Venmo request. 3,200, mortgage, will explain soon, I promise. I approved it at 10:01. I texted him. You okay? Yeah, just weird timing with work stuff, thank you. October 28th. Another request. $1,800. November 15th. 2,500. $7,500 in 5 weeks. I sent it all. I didn't ask questions, and Nathan didn't explain. 12 days before Thanksgiving, I sent him the last $2,500. 12 days before he'd laugh while my father called me worthless. I'd given them $157,500 in 20 months. I kept their house. I cleared Nathan's debt. I fixed Claire's life 3 times over. And not one of them knew. Because they never asked. Asking would mean seeing me as someone with value, and they couldn't afford to do that. Because then they'd have to admit they were wrong. Even as they called me worthless, I kept their lights on. And they never asked where the money came from, because asking would mean seeing me. Let me tell you about my brother, Nathan Kilgore, 35 years old, pharmacist, golden child. At Thanksgiving 2018, my father gave a 10-minute speech about Nathan's PharmD graduation. Standing ovation, Christmas 2019. Nathan's making $88,000 a year, my father announced to the entire extended family. Easter 2022. Nathan bought a townhouse in Edina. 3 bedrooms, 2.5 baths, granite countertops, $385,000. My father showed photos to everyone at the party. This is the American dream, folks, he said, looking at me, not chasing some fantasy. I was at that housewarming party. I brought a $14 bottle of wine. No one talked to me for more than 5 minutes. What my father didn't mention, Nathan's down payment included $40,000 from their retirement savings. And Nathan's stable career? It was already cracking. September 12th, 2025. 2:30 p.m. Nathan was working at Walgreens in Edina. A 71-year-old diabetic patient came to pick up his prescription for metformin. Prescribed dose, 500 milligrams twice daily. Nathan dispensed 1,000 milligrams twice daily. Double the dose. The patient went into severe hypoglycemia the next day. He was hospitalized for 4 days at Fairview Southdale. Stable. No permanent damage. But the family filed a complaint. September 15th, Nathan was terminated. The Minnesota Board of Pharmacy suspended his license pending investigation. Nathan went home that night and told his wife Emily the truth. Then he made her swear not to tell anyone, especially not his father. The next day, Nathan called my parents. Good news, he said, voice bright, practiced. I got offered a consulting position with a pharmacy benefits manager, fully remote, better hours, similar pay. My father was thrilled. That's wonderful! Remote work is the future, my mother cried happy tears. Nathan hung up and sat in his car in the driveway for 20 minutes. Then he opened Indeed and started applying for jobs. Over the next 2 months, he applied to 14 pharmacy positions. 8 rejected him outright. Background checks showed his suspended license. Two gave him interviews, both passed, zero offers. Every weekday from 8 a.m. to 5 p.m., Nathan drove to the Starbucks at Galleria Edina. He bought $12 worth of coffee, sat at a corner table, applied for jobs, attended virtual interviews that led nowhere. At 5:15, he drove home. Every Sunday, he attended family dinner at my parents' house, smiled, talked about his consulting projects with scripts he'd rehearsed with Emily. My father beamed with pride. Nathan's ahead of the curve. Nathan's savings when he was fired, $18,000. His monthly burn rate with mortgage and expenses, $6,500. Timeline before he'd be broke, mid-December. So Nathan came to me, the sister my father called worthless, the one who'd never amount to anything. He asked for $3,200, then $1,800, then $2,500, and I gave it to him, every time. No questions asked. November 26th, the day before Thanksgiving. Nathan got his 14th rejection email. He sat in his Audi Q5 in the Starbucks parking lot and cried for 20 minutes. Then he drove to our parents' house to help prep for tomorrow's dinner, where my father would toast to the family's success story. But I knew the truth he was hiding. I knew about the termination letter, the suspended license, the 14 rejections, the $7,500 he'd borrowed from me in 6 weeks. And I knew that in 12 days, when everything came out, Nathan's golden throne would shatter. I just didn't know I'd be the one holding the hammer. November 27th, 2025, Thanksgiving. 22 people were gathering at my parents' house on Nicollet Avenue, the same house I'd saved from foreclosure. I knew the guest list by heart. My parents, Nathan and Emily, Claire and her 2 kids, Sophie, 7, and Ethan, 4. My grandparents Henry and Margaret, Uncle Tom and Aunt Rachel with their 2 teenage sons, Aunt Helen and her college-aged daughter, Aunt Diane and Uncle Paul with their high school son, and me, alone. Seating arrangements were planned in advance. I saw the chart on my mother's kitchen counter when I arrived. I was position 19, out of 22, between a 4-year-old and a stranger. Nathan was position 2, right hand of the king. That's when I knew my father had something planned. I arrived at 2:15, 15 minutes late on purpose. The house was already full. 18 people, chaos, kids running, football game on TV, Vikings versus Bears. I walked in carrying a glass Pyrex dish, sweet potato casserole, my grandfather's recipe from 1982, handwritten on a yellowed index card. My father looked up from arranging wine glasses. "Oh, Melissa, you made it," he said, not looking at me. "Put that dish anywhere." I set it on the counter. Nobody asked what it was. Nathan was in the living room. He saw me. "Hey, Mel." No eye contact. Claire hugged me tight, whispered, "Thank you for everything." I hugged her back. My grandfather found me near the pantry. He gripped my hand. His fingers were shaking. "We need to talk later," he said. "About what?" "You'll see." He squeezed my hand twice. Our signal. "I'm proud." Then he walked away. I stood there holding a casserole dish no one would eat, in a house full of people who didn't see me. And for the first time in 3 years, I wondered, what if I just told them? 2:45 to 3:30. Controlled chaos. Kids chased each other with Nerf guns. Sophie was crying because Ethan stole her toy. The Vikings were up 17 to 14 in the 3rd quarter. Uncle Tom asked me what I was up to these days. "Writing," I said. "Oh, that's nice. Still?" I smiled, said nothing. At 3:10, I hid in the bathroom for 5 minutes. Needed air. At 3:25, I stood near the bookshelf, alone. My casserole sat untouched on the counter. At 3:38, my father clinked his wineglass with a knife. The room went quiet. "Dinner in 2 minutes," he announced. "Everyone to the table." People moved like a choreographed dance. Everyone knew their place. I took my seat. Position 19, between Ethan and Aunt Helen's daughter, who I'd met exactly twice. Across the table, Nathan stared at his plate. Next to him, my father stood. He held his wine glass high. 2015 Napa Cabernet, $85. His special occasions bottle. And he smiled. At 3:39 p.m., everyone was seated. My father stood at the head of the table. He raised his glass. Before grace, he said, I want to say a few words about gratitude. He started talking about family values, hard work, real success. His eyes kept drifting to Nathan, proud, then to me, dismissive. My heart was pounding. Across the table, my grandfather gripped his fork, knuckles white. Then my father looked directly at me, raised his glass higher, and said the words that would change everything. I felt the trap closing before Dad even spoke, because I'd seen this play out for 14 years, and this time I wasn't going to stay quiet. My father's voice carried across the table. I want to make a toast, he said. To dreamers. He paused, let the word hang in the air. You know, every family has one. The person who thinks the rules don't apply to them, who thinks they can just coast on hope and imagination instead of hard work. The room shifted, uncomfortable. Some people grow out of it, he continued. They wake up, they get real jobs, they contribute. He looked at Nathan, smiled with pride. And some people, he turned to me, never do. Someone coughed. A chair creaked. My father raised his glass higher. So here's my toast. To the dreamer who'll never amount to anything. May she one day realize that the world doesn't owe her a living. Silence. 2 seconds. Then Uncle Tom laughed, nervous, awkward. Aunt Rachel joined. Then Aunt Diane. Then Uncle Paul. One by one, they started clapping. My mother nodded. Slow, deliberate. Nathan looked down. But his mouth, I saw it, a smirk. Emily, Nathan's wife, clapped, reluctant, eyes on her plate. 14 more people clapped, 20 people total. My sister Claire didn't clap, she was crying. My grandfather didn't clap, his hands were clenched into fists. And I sat there. In seat number 19, next to a 4-year-old, holding a napkin I'd twisted into shreds. But my father wasn't done. You know what the problem is with dreamers? He said, voice rising. They're selfish. They want everyone else to support their little hobbies while real people do real work. He gestured to Nathan. Nathan here, PharmD, stable career, homeowner at 35. That's a man who grew up. Nathan shifted in his seat. Claire, teacher, raising 2 kids alone. She's a hero. Claire stared at her plate, tears falling. And Melissa? Long pause. 33 years old, still playing with notebooks, still editing other people's work for pennies, still thinking she's going to be, what, a famous writer? The room was dead silent. My father leaned forward, looked right at me. If you vanished today, Melissa, we'd probably celebrate. One less person to worry about. One less disappointment. Aunt Helen gasped. Jeffrey, that's… What? My father snapped. I'm tired of pretending, tired of walking on eggshells. She's 33. Sophie, Claire's 7-year-old daughter, whispered to her mom, loud enough for everyone to hear. Mommy, why is Grandpa being so mean to Aunt Melissa? No one answered her, because no one was going to defend me. Not even my own mother. My father raised his glass again. So here's to reality, to hard work, to people like Nathan who make this family proud. He waited. Aunt Rachel clapped first, tentative. Uncle Tom followed. Aunt Diane, Uncle Paul, Emily, my mother. 20 people clapping, cheering, for a toast that told me the world would be better if I disappeared. The applause lasted 8 seconds, then it faded. My father sat down, satisfied. My mother smiled at him. Nathan picked up his fork, and that's when I stood up. The chair scraped against the hardwood floor. Every head turned. My father looked up, smirked. Oh, are you leaving? Proving my point? I looked at him. My voice was calm, cold. No, Dad, I said. I'm staying, but I have something to say. He laughed. Oh, this should be good. Let me guess. Another dream you're chasing? I smiled. Actually, yes. His smirk widened. And how's that working out for you? I held his gaze. Better than you could possibly imagine. The room shifted. Something in my tone. Something different. My mother stood. Melissa, sit down. Don't make a scene. But my grandfather stood too. Slowly. And when he spoke, his voice was louder than I'd heard in 30 years. Jeffrey, sit down. The room froze. My father turned. Dad, this doesn't concern. It concerns me. Grandpa Henry's voice shook the room. You just told your daughter, my granddaughter, that the world would be better if she vanished, in front of 22 people, including children. My grandmother reached for him. Henry, please. No, Margaret. I've been quiet for 33 years. I watched you people crush this girl. And I'm done. My father stood, face red. Dad, you don't understand. I understand perfectly. Grandpa pulled something from his jacket pocket. An envelope, old, yellowed. He held it up. You want to know about dreamers, Jeffrey? I was a dreamer. I wrote a book, published it in 1976. Know how many copies it sold? 800. Know what you did? You and Linda told me to get a real job, so I sold insurance for 30 years and hated every second. The room was silent. Henry's hands trembled as he unfolded the letter. But before I tell you about Melissa's dream, he said, voice shaking, let's talk about yours, Jeffrey. My father's face went white. 22 people laughed. I stood up. My grandfather held up the letter. This, he said, is dated June 12th, 1998. He started reading. Dear Dad, I need your help. I want to start my own accounting practice, but the banks won't give me a loan. I need $15,000 to rent office space and get started. I know you have savings from selling insurance. I promise I'll pay you back within 2 years. This is my dream, Dad. Please don't let me down. Your son, Jeffrey. My grandfather lowered the letter. I gave you the money, Jeffrey. June 15th, 1998. Check number 4721. $15,000. Your dream. My father's mouth opened, closed. No words came out. Your accounting practice? Grandpa continued. It closed in 8 months. You never paid me back, not $1. Uncle Tom leaned forward. Is that true, Jeffrey? My father couldn't speak. Henry looked around the table. You borrowed $15,000 to chase your dream. It failed. And did I call you worthless? Did I tell you to vanish? Silence. No, I said, try again, son. You'll figure it out. And you did. You got a job at a firm. You rebuilt. Because that's what you do when someone fails. You support them. He turned to my father. But you didn't support Melissa. You crushed her. For 14 years. My grandfather's voice cracked. I was a writer, he said. Did any of you know that? A few people shook their heads. Midwest Requiem. Short stories. Published 1976. Library of Congress has a copy. Won a small regional award. I was proud. My grandmother spoke up, defensive. Henry, that didn't pay the bills. Because you told me it was foolish. His voice rose. You told me to be practical, so I quit. I sold insurance. And every single day for 30 years, I wondered what I could have written if I'd kept going. He turned to me. His eyes were wet. When Melissa told me she wanted to write, I saw myself, and I thought, maybe I can help her not make my mistake. Maybe she can be brave enough to keep going. He walked closer to my end of the table. You sent me your manuscript in 2023, he said. The Weight of Winter. I read it in one night. I cried, Melissa, because you wrote the book I never had the courage to write, about family, about dreams we bury to make other people comfortable, about the cost of invisibility. Tears ran down my face. I'm sorry I didn't defend you sooner, he said. I'm sorry I let them make you feel small. But I'm not staying quiet anymore. My mother interrupted, voice sharp. This is ridiculous. Melissa hasn't published anything. She edits for $2,000 a month. My grandfather smiled. Actually, Linda, she has. He pulled out his phone. An iPhone 13 I'd bought him last Christmas. He opened Amazon, turned the screen to face the table. Melissa published a novel, June 11th, 2025. The Weight of Winter, Penguin Random House. People leaned forward, squinting. It's been on the New York Times bestseller list for 18 weeks. The room erupted, multiple people talking at once. Nathan stood. What? That's not… Melissa, is that true? I looked at him. Yes. My mother's face went pale. Why didn't you tell us? I looked at her. Let the question hang. Then I answered. Would you have believed me? She didn't respond. My grandfather scrolled on his phone. Current rank, he read. Number 3 on the New York Times bestseller list. Reese's Book Club pick for October 2025. Film rights acquired by A24 Pictures. He looked up. That's the real A24, the studio that made Everything Everywhere all at once. Aunt Rachel grabbed his phone. Let me see that. Oh my God. That's Melissa's name. Uncle Tom stood, walked around the table, looked at the screen. How much money? My father finally spoke, voice tight. This is fake. She probably made a website or… I reached into my purse, pulled out my phone, unlocked it. Want to see the contract, Dad? I opened my email app, scrolled, found the message from Samantha Brooks, my editor at Penguin Random House. Subject line, offer, The Weight of Winter. 3-book deal. Date, February 14th, 2024. 2:51 p.m. I passed my phone to Claire. She read it. Her hands started shaking. Mel, is this is real? Nathan walked over, looked over Claire's shoulder, his face drained of color. Wait, 1.85 million? I looked at him. Yes, Nathan, 1.85 million. Before agent fees and taxes, I netted about 400,000 from the advance so far. Nathan stared at me. So when I asked you for money in October, you… I had it, I said. I've always had it. My father's face went from white to red. If you had money, why didn't you help your family? My grandfather laughed. Actually laughed. Oh, Jeffrey, you want to talk about Melissa helping the family? Let's talk about that. He turned to my parents. March 2024, you were 3 months behind on your home equity loan. Foreclosure notice. Who do you think paid that off? My mother blinked. The church fund. There was no church fund. That was Melissa. Gasps around the table. Grandpa continued. Nathan's $43,000 in student loans. Melissa. Claire's car repair, her son's surgery, her furnace. Melissa. All of it. He turned to Nathan. And those 3 emergency requests you sent in October and November? 3,200, 1,800, 2,500? Melissa paid those too, no questions asked. Nathan's face crumpled. Melissa, I didn't know. I know you didn't, I said, voice steady. I never told you where the money came from. Because I knew if I did, you'd tell Dad, and Dad would find a way to make it about how I should be helping, like it was my obligation. Grandpa looked around the table. She paid $157,500 to this family in 20 months, while working as a freelance editor for pennies, while you called her a failure, while you told her she'd never amount to anything. Nathan was shaking. Melissa, I'm so sorry. I didn't know where the money came from. I should have asked. I should have defended you. I'm a coward. His wife Emily stood. Her voice was cold. We're leaving. Now. Nathan looked at her. Emily, please. She turned to the table. My husband has been unemployed for 2 months. He's been lying to me, to his parents. He borrowed $7,500 from his sister, who he just watched get humiliated, and he said, nothing. She looked at me. I'm sorry. I didn't know. And thank you for helping us. We'll pay you back. Every cent. Then she reached into Nathan's jacket hanging on his chair, pulled out a folded piece of paper, official letterhead. Because I found this in your jacket pocket 2 days ago. Emily unfolded the letter, started reading aloud. Due to the serious nature of the dispensing error on September 12, 2025, and subsequent patient harm requiring hospitalization, your employment with Walgreens is terminated effective immediately. Your pharmacy license has been reported to the Minnesota Board of Pharmacy for investigation. She looked at Nathan. You've been lying to me for 2 months, lying to your parents, pretending to go to work. Where have you been, Nathan? Nathan's voice broke. Starbucks, the one at Galleria, every day, 8 to 5, applying for jobs. I've been rejected 14 times. My license is suspended. My father stood, face purple with rage. Nathan, you lost your license? Nathan nodded, tears streaming down his face. And you had Melissa, your failure sister, pay your bills? That's when Grandpa stood again. No, Jeffrey, Melissa isn't the failure here. He pulled out a letter from 1998. And Jeffrey Kilgore, the man who just called his daughter worthless, looked like he might faint. I set my phone on the table. Everyone was staring at me now. The woman they'd called a dreamer, a failure, worthless. I had one more thing to show them. I opened the New York Times app. This is the New York Times bestseller list, I said. Voice calm, precise. Updated every Wednesday. This is from November 20th, 1 week ago. I scrolled to the literary fiction category. Row 3, The Weight of Winter, by Melissa Kilgore. 18 weeks on the list. I passed the phone to Uncle Tom. He stared at it. Melissa, this is real. I can see the official New York Times logo. I also have the physical plaque they sent, I said. It's in my car. Bronze, has my name engraved. I can get it if you want. Aunt Helen took the phone, started reading. Number 1 is The Woman in Me by Britney Spears. Number 2 is James Patterson. Number 3 is you, Melissa. You're ranked with Britney Spears and James Patterson. My father sputtered. Anyone can fake a screenshot. I pulled up Amazon on my phone. Here's Amazon. Number 112 overall. Number 3 in literary fiction. 8,200 ratings. Want me to read you some reviews, Dad? I scrolled. Here's one. This book destroyed me. Kilgore is the voice of a generation. I kept scrolling. Here's another. I sobbed for an hour after finishing this. Everyone needs to read it. I looked up. 4.6 stars out of 5. 8,200 reviews. Nathan had pulled out his own phone. He was Googling something. His face went gray. I Googled you, Mel. Reese Witherspoon posted about your book 3 weeks ago. He showed his phone to the table. Reese's Instagram. 2.4 million likes. She said, this book wrecked me. She has 30 million followers. Claire grabbed Nathan's phone. Oh my God, there are TikToks. So many TikToks. Hashtag The Weight of Winter has 47 million views. I nodded. Reese announced it October 8th. Sales went up 600% overnight. My publisher had to print 50,000 additional copies. Aunt Rachel gasped. Melissa, you're famous. I shook my head. I'm not famous. I'm a working writer with a successful book. There's a difference. My father slammed his hand on the table. If you had this kind of success, why hide it from your family? I looked at him. Really looked at him. Because every time I've ever accomplished something, you've found a way to diminish it. So I stopped sharing, and I started giving. I opened my banking app. Let me show you what I mean. I scrolled to my transaction history. March 12th, 2024. Wire transfer to Fifth Third Bank. $15,000. Memo. Home equity payment. I showed the screen to the table. That was the first payment on your foreclosure. Want to see the rest? I scrolled. Showed a list of 15 transactions. March 12th, 15,000. April 3rd, 6,500. May 1st, 8,200. June 15th, 7,800. I kept reading. Every date, every amount. My mother was crying. Melissa, that church fund? That was you? There was no church fund, Mom. I created a fake email account, sent you an official-looking letter, because I knew if you found out it was me, the failure, you wouldn't accept it. My father opened his mouth. That's fraud. It's a gift, Dad. $78,000 to save your house. You're welcome. Nathan stood up. Melissa, my student loans. Did you? Was that you? I looked at him. What do you think, Nathan? His voice was barely a whisper. You paid it. You paid all of it. I wired $43,000 to Navient on July 18th, 2024. You called me crying. You said you'd never forget. You promised you'd pay me back. I paused. And then 4 months later, you smirked while Dad told me I'm worthless. Nathan's tears started falling. Melissa, I didn't know you were... I thought you were just being kind with money you'd saved, or... You didn't ask, Nathan. Just like you didn't ask where the 3,200 came from in October, or the 1,800, or the 2,500. You just took it, because that's what you do. You take and I give, and nobody sees me. Emily, Nathan's wife, turned to him, voice sharp as glass. Nathan, you borrowed money from Melissa in October? I was going to tell you. When? When were you going to tell me you lost your job? The room went silent. My father stared at Nathan. Nathan, what is she talking about? Nathan looked at his wife, at his father, at me. He couldn't speak. So Emily spoke for him. She stood, voice shaking with anger. In September, Nathan came home and told me he got a consulting position. Remote work, better hours. I believed him. She turned to Nathan. But that's not true, is it? She reached into his jacket, pulled out the folded termination letter again, held it up. Because I found this in your jacket pocket 2 days ago. She read it again, slower this time. Due to the serious nature of the dispensing error on September 12, 2025, and subsequent patient harm requiring hospitalization, your employment with Walgreens is terminated effective immediately. Your pharmacy license has been reported to the Minnesota Board of Pharmacy for investigation. She looked at Nathan. You've been lying to me for 2 months, lying to your parents, pretending to go to work. Where have you been, Nathan? Nathan's voice broke. Starbucks, the one at Galleria. Every day, 8 to 5. Applying for jobs. I've been rejected 14 times. My license is suspended. My father stood, face purple. Nathan, you lost your license? Nathan nodded. And you had Melissa, your failure sister, pay your bills? Grandpa stood again. No, Jeffrey. Melissa isn't the failure here. I pulled up Safari on my phone, navigated to Deadline Hollywood. There's one more thing, I said. I found the article from October 5th. Turn the screen to face the table. October 5th, 2025, a 24 Pictures acquired film rights to The Weight of Winter. The headline was visible. A 24 acquires The Weight of Winter. Melissa Kilgore. Debut novel lands prestige deal. Purchase price, $620,000. After agent fees and taxes, I netted $389,600. I looked at my father. So to answer your question, Dad, I'm doing fine. Uncle Tom whispered to Aunt Rachel. A 24 is the studio that made Everything Everywhere All at Once. And Moonlight, I said, and Lady Bird and Hereditary, yes. I set my phone down. 22 people stared at me. The woman they'd called a dreamer, a failure, worthless. I had one more thing to say. I've given you $157,500 in 20 months. I kept your house. I cleared Nathan's debt. I fixed Claire's life 3 times over. And not one of you knew. Because you never asked. Asking would mean seeing me as someone with value, and you couldn't afford to do that, because then you'd have to admit you were wrong. I showed them the New York Times list. Row 3, my name, and I watched my father's world collapse. The room exploded. 15 people talking at once. Aunt Rachel to my mother. You had no idea? Uncle Paul to my father. You called her worthless and she paid your mortgage? Aunt Diane to Nathan. Your license is suspended? Sophie, Claire's daughter, started crying. Ethan asked, Is Aunt Melissa rich? My grandmother turned to Grandpa Henry. You knew about this? Emily grabbed Nathan's arm. We need to talk, now. My father tried to speak, tried to regain control, but Uncle Tom cut him off. No, you don't get to talk right now. Melissa does. My father stood, hands up, defensive. Okay, everyone calm down. Melissa, I didn't know. If I'd known you were successful, I would have what, Dad? My voice was ice. Been proud? Supported me? Or would you have found a way to make it about you? That's not fair. You told me if I vanished, you'd celebrate. 22 people heard you. What part of that should I forgive? My father was desperate now. I was trying to give you tough love, to motivate you. Tough love? I cut him off. Dad, you didn't tell me to work harder. You told me I was worthless. You said the world would be better without me. That's not motivation, that's cruelty. My mother stood, crying. Melissa, your father didn't mean it like that. I turned to her. Mom, you clapped. When he said I should vanish, you clapped. She reached for my hand. I pulled away. Don't touch me. You've been embarrassed by me for 33 years. Now I'm embarrassed by you. Nathan was sobbing. Full breakdown. Couldn't breathe. Mel, I'm so sorry. I didn't know where the money came from. I should have asked. I should have defended you. I'm a coward. Emily grabbed her coat. We're leaving. Now. Emily, please. She turned to me. I'm sorry. I didn't know. And thank you for helping us. We'll pay you back. Every cent. She grabbed Nathan's arm, pulled him toward the door. Nathan, car. Now. We're going to talk about the fact that you've been spending 8 hours a day at Starbucks lying to me about having a job. The door slammed. Nathan and Emily were gone. The golden child had fallen. Claire walked to me, wrapped her arms around me, held on tight. I'm so sorry, she whispered, for not defending you, for taking your money without asking questions, for being a coward just like Nathan. She hugged me for 2.5 minutes. I finally let myself cry. Uncle Tom approached, hands in pockets. Melissa, I apologize. I clapped, I was wrong. What your dad said was cruel, and I should have said something. Aunt Helen touched my shoulder. I'm proud of you, sweetheart. Always have been. My grandfather gripped my shoulders, looked me in the eyes. You are magnificent. 4 people apologized. 18 didn't. My father stood at the head of the table, silent. My mother sat in her chair, crying. The turkey sat on the counter, uncarved, cold. Nobody moved to eat. Nathan's wife found the termination letter in his jacket, and the golden child's throne didn't just crack. It shattered into dust. I walked to the head of the table, where my father had been standing. I looked at all 20 people still in the room. I'm going to say this once, I said. I love you all, but I will not be disrespected anymore. Here are my boundaries. I counted on my fingers. 1. No more jokes about my career. No more dismissive comments. If you can't be proud of me, be quiet. 2. No more financial requests. I've given $157,500. That account is closed. If you need money, ask a bank. 3. If you want a relationship with me, you apologize, sincerely. Not, I'm sorry you felt hurt. A real apology. My father sputtered. You can't just, I can, and I am. This is my boundary. You can respect it, or you cannot have me in your life. Your choice. I looked around the table. I will not attend family events where I'm treated like a problem. I will not answer calls that start with criticism. I will not set myself on fire to keep you warm. Those days are over. My mother stood. You're being dramatic. This is family. We forgive and forget. I picked up my coat. No, Mom. You forget. I remember. Every single time you made me feel small. I walked to the door. My father stood. If you walk out that door, I turned. What, Dad? You'll disown me? Cut me off? I've been cut off for 14 years. I'm used to it. The difference now is I don't need you anymore. I opened the door. Cold November air rushed in. Enjoy your turkey. I looked back one more time. I paid for the house you're standing in. I paid for Nathan's degree. I paid for Claire's emergencies. I did all of that while you called me worthless. So when you carved that turkey, remember, the dreamer kept you afloat. You're welcome. I walked out. Grandpa Henry and Claire followed. We stood in the driveway. Cold air. Silence. And for the first time in 33 years, I felt free. I'm done being invisible. I'm done being the punchline. I'm done paying for a seat at a table where I'm not welcome. They can keep Thanksgiving. I'm keeping my dignity. 3 weeks later, my book hit week 22 on the New York Times list. Nathan sent 3 apology texts. I responded to one. I forgive you, but we need space. He understood. Mom texted once. Can we talk? I didn't answer. Not yet. Maybe not ever. Dad? Silence, which told me everything. Claire and I have coffee every week. She's in therapy now, working through her own stuff. She's the only one who asked, how did you survive us? I told her, I didn't survive you. I survived in spite of you. There's a difference. The inside cover. To Melissa, the one who, 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 the
One who, the one who, the one who, the one who the inside cover. To Melissa, the one who kept going, I cried. I'm writing book 2 now. A story about a man who gave up his dream and the granddaughter who finished it for him. Grandpa says he can't wait to read it. This time, he won't have to wait in secret. Grandpa and I had coffee. Just us.